Are you on the fence about whether to raise meat rabbits or meat chickens for you and your family? Both definitely have unique advantages. Hi, my name is Nancy and this is Maplewood Homestead, and in today's video I'm going to give you the real story. No fluff, no sugarcoating. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect in terms of housing, feed costs, space, and even processing. No surprises. And I'm going to let you in on some insider knowledge that I don't hear anybody else talking about. By the end of this, you'll have everything you need to know to make the best choice for you and your family. So why should you even listen to me? Well, for the last 7 years, we've raised pastured chickens here at our farm. And actually last year, we launched out into our own small business where we raise them and process them to sell out to our local community. Additionally, we've raised rabbits for our own consumption for the last 5 years. You see a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about why you should choose this species over that species. But honestly, I just want to lay it all out for you because it may be that one is better for you than the other, but only truly you can decide when you have all of the facts. So let's get into it. The first big question is, how much space do you have? Both species have very specific housing needs and space requirements that need to be taken into consideration. Let's start with the rabbits.
This is my buck. His name is Lloyd.
Usually most people start with a breeding trio. That means 2 does and a buck. You're going to have to start with a separate cage for each one of those, plus 2 grow-out cages. On our farm, the 2 hutches that we use for this take up approximately 75 square feet.
This is our grow-out and buck cage. We bought this on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm really not crazy about the design, but it works. This is a hutch that we built from plans that we got offline, and it is by far my favorite hutch because you can remove the cages to clean everything, and it even tells you how to build the cages. So it saved us a lot of money.
In that 75 square feet, we can produce over 300 pounds of meat per year. The great thing about the hutches is that they're stationary, and once they're built, they will last a long time. Additionally, you're going to need waterers and feeders for the rabbits, and those waterers or feeders are used from the time they're born to all the way up to butcher weight. So that's the requirements for the rabbits. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention for the rabbits, you are going to need nesting boxes for the moms, so 2 nesting boxes as well.
You can buy pre-made metal nesting boxes, or you can even make your own wooden ones like we did here.
Talking about the chickens. Chickens, you're going to need a brooder to put them in for the first 2 weeks. And in that brooder, you're going to have their own waterer and feeder that are very specific to chicks.
Here's a brooder that we designed that cost approximately $80. And it worked pretty well, except for when they were really small like this, they could get through the chicken wire. So the next batch we did, we actually just put about 6 inches of cardboard around the bottom, and that seemed to solve the problem. We've tried different kinds of waterers and feeders for our baby chicks, and these are the ones that seem to work the best.
After the 2nd week, when you put them out on pasture, they're going to live in a chicken tractor. And let's just say you take an 8x10 chicken tractor, moved over the course of the next 6 weeks, will be approximately 3,360 square feet to move them around and to grow them to grow out weight. They're going to need a different water and feeder inside the tractor than, of course, they needed in the brooder because they're much bigger now.
This is the 8x10 tractor I was referencing. It is the John Suskevich tractor, and it holds a maximum of 35 chickens. This is the Salatin tractor. Its dimensions are 10 by 12, and when moved around every day for the last 6 weeks of the chickens' lives, will need approximately 5,040 square feet. It can hold a maximum of 80 chickens.
If you want a comparison of the 2 different tractors, I'll leave a link in the description below to a video we did comparing the two, and you can decide for yourself. Now let's talk about cost for each of these structures. We bought one of our hutches on Facebook for $200. That was for our grow outs. Plus we have housing for the does and the bucks, and that was another $300 to $350 worth of material to build those, including the cages. Now, the chicken tractors, we spent on both the Salatin and the Suskovich about $400 to $450 each tractor. So keep that in mind when considering which is best for you. Okay, now that you have the housing set up, you have your brooders and your tractors for your chicken, or you have your hutches for your rabbits, now you need to go get the animals. In our area, I can get a good quality buck or doe for about $30. However, I've seen some places that charge up to about $60 per animal. Chickens, on the other hand, you're going to have to order those from a hatchery. Cornish cross are very specific, and they run about $4.50 a piece unless you order in large amounts. For instance, we get ours for about $4 each because we always order in bulks of 100. I don't really recommend doing 100 chickens the first time you do it. So the cost per bird is going to be about $4.50 plus shipping and handling. All right, now you've got your critters and you've got them in the housing you built. Let's talk feed. Let's start with rabbits. Rabbits are herbivores, and in our area, a bag of feed costs about $18. I'll actually leave a link in the description below where I did a 4-minute video that breaks down the cost per rabbit from the time it's conceived to butcher weight and how much it costs and how much meat you can actually raise with those 2 does and a buck. So check that out. Also, you can forage for rabbits in your summer months. Now where we live, I can forage from March through October, supplementing their diet. So that will take down the cost quite sufficiently. Keep in mind though, I may not put them 100% on forage, because if you do, say you get sick or you have to go away and they can only be fed with pellets, you don't want to have to, you might mess up their keep in system by just throwing them completely onto pellets if you've been feeding them if you've only been feeding them forage. So the wise thing to do would give them a little bit of pellets always, even when you're feeding forage. There's a pro tip for you. Chickens are omnivores and love to eat bugs and grass. However, Cornish cross birds grow so fast, they really need a high protein feed to help get them to weight. The feed needs to be no less than 20% protein. In our area, a 50-pound bag of regular meat bird feed costs about $15 from our local mill. Something that's organic or non-GMO can be as expensive as $30 for a 50-pound bag. Chickens usually, when dressed out, weigh about 5 pounds at the 8-week mark. And that being said, they eat about 15 pounds of feed, which means you're going to wind up paying at least $1.44 to $2.55 per pound in feed for that bird. All right, now to the meat of the matter. It's processing time. And a lot of people are hesitant, and I understand why when it comes to this. But it makes it so much easier if you actually know what you're in for. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Processing rabbits requires a lot less equipment than chickens do. I mean, you can technically do chickens by hand plucking and all. Let me just tell you, it's much easier with a plucker and a scalder. Yeah, we've done it both ways. Anyway, back to the rabbits. The rabbits are very quick and very easy to do. I time myself. It takes me about 7 minutes from time of dispatch to getting it in the water fully dressed out. And I think there are people that can do it faster than me. But a chicken takes a little bit longer because for some reason, and I'm not sure why, it takes a bit longer for chickens once dispatched for their blood to drain than it does for a rabbit. Plus, there's scalding with the chickens, and you don't have that with the rabbits. So just adding those two things adds about 5 minutes per chicken over the rabbits. So it does take a little bit longer.
In your decision-making process about which animal you want to raise, I highly recommend that you check out our videos on dispatching and processing a rabbit as well as a chicken. I'll leave the link in the description below for each of those videos.
Something I don't hear a lot of people talk about is actual storage of these carcasses after you're done. I find that rabbit is much easier to store in a freezer and you can fit more in there than chickens. And let me explain why. After a rabbit is processed out, you can kind of curl it into a flat ball and they'll stack nicely in your freezer. Whereas the chicken, if you leave it whole, has a very, it has all the inside and it makes for a very awkward shape in your refrigerator or your freezer. And so it's hard to fit a lot of them in there. So as far as storage goes, if you don't break down the chicken, that hollow space in the center takes up a lot more room. Additionally, rabbits will finish out at about 3 pounds a piece, where chickens will finish out at 5 pounds a piece. Rabbits take 12 weeks to grow to virtual weight, where chickens take 8. So these are some other things you're going to want to consider regarding freezer space and how much meat you want and what timing. Another thing to consider is that you're not going to have chicken poop when you raise chickens on pasture, but you'll have tons of manure from the rabbits. And rabbit poop can be put directly on your garden. It doesn't need to be composted. It's not a hot fertilizer. So go ahead and use it for your garden. You can actually sell some of these things from your farm to help supplement your farm's needs. You can always sell rabbits as pets, which we have done. And you might want to check out your state laws regarding growing, processing, and selling meat chickens. The state of Tennessee defers to the federal regulations, which says that we can process up to 1,000 birds per year for sale right from our very own farm. So you can do that as a side hustle to help supplement your farm. Okay, something I really need you to consider if you're leaning towards rabbits. Get a hold of a meat rabbit and cook it for your family. I know you've heard all over the place that the taste and the texture of rabbit is exactly like chicken. I'm going to tell you 2 things. One, it's not exactly like it. It's incredibly close, and you could probably get away with passing it off for chicken. However, we're talking a mammal texture of meat versus a bird texture of meat. There's a slight difference. Also, deboning a rabbit is so much more difficult than deboning a chicken. So I would just highly recommend that you try it before you jump into it. At the end of the day, both rabbits and chickens are actually excellent choices for protein for you and your family. But a lot of it, as you can see, depends on space, finances, and what your actual needs are. So I hope this video has been helpful, and if it has, please consider liking and subscribing for more great content from Maplewood Homestead. And until next time, happy homesteading. The last thing, when you get rabbit, you have to give up the whole crispy skin thing. I really like the crispy chicken skin. How about you?